You are more than you think you are. Do you realize that? You are really more than you think you are. And here's what I want you to do. Think about something that you would do now in your midlife, and I'm assuming all of us here are in our midlife time. What would you do in your midlife if you were not afraid? You don't have to write it down, just think about it, because later on I may ask you to share. What would you do in your midlife if you were not afraid? Okay. I'm a midlifer, as you can tell, but here's my story. My story is this. I'm not going to tell all the figures, but when my daughter was 12, so you can do the math. When my daughter was 12, she took a class at Freedom Theater. And we were all excited about going to see Monique dressed up in her costume to do her first monologue. When we got to Freedom Theater, my whole family was with us. And parents were all over in the audience, and everybody was thrilled, couldn't wait to see their children perform. Of course, I was one of them. When Monique got on the stage, she did her monologue, and she was beautiful. And we all clapped, all excited. And then when the children finished, the adult acting class came on. And while I was looking on stage, I saw this beautiful woman come on, and she recited a poem called, Who Am I? While sitting there listening to her recite this poem, Who Am I? Tears started forming in my eyes, and I got real misty. And my best friend and my cousin, everybody looked, well, what is wrong with you? Monique just performed, and what are you getting so emotional about? Well, I had a huge aha moment, a huge revelation that I knew there was more to me than my roles that I was experiencing. I was going through a difficult divorce, challenging work time, raising 2 children alone. Her poem, Who Am I?, resonated with me. I knew I was a mother, a wife, a sister, a friend, but this voice kept saying to me, but there's more to me than I know. That started my journey, my archaeological dig to discover or rediscover who I am. And here's my belief system. The word Sankofa is a mythical bird from Ghana. Ghana received its independence in 1957. It was the first African state to be colonized. Sankofa is a word that describes this bird from the Akan language. This bird has a long beak with an egg in its mouth, and it can turn its head completely around to look behind him. Remember, it's a mythical bird. It's not a real bird. The reason why Sankofa plays a big part of Ghana's independence is because before Ghana was colonized, who remembers, it was what? A rich nation. It exported gold, it had queens and kings. And they realized in order to move forward as an independent state, they had to remember where they came from. So that was the first clue, that I had to go back to the past to remember where I came from. And I was very curious about my African heritage, but I was also curious about what I would find in my past. The other belief system that I have, because one of the things that's so important when you're rediscovering yourself is to figure out what you believe in. The second thing I believe in is what Carl Jung says. Anybody remember? Carl Jung was a behaviorist. He believed strongly that As a matter of fact, Carl Jung had a midlife crisis when he was 37. And what he discovered was we live half of our lives totally unconscious, don't we, about who we are. Why? Because life kicks in. But he wanted to go back and discover who he really was. And here's an interesting fact about Carl Jung. He was one of the pioneers in career development. So he too, like me, it was around the same age I was, about 37, this discovery that I'm more than I think I am.